everyone, Karen Glasser here, and welcome to Minding Your Mental Health. I am here with my co host, Rob, my son, and we talk about the topics that shape mental health today. We teach the importance of inclusion and share why we should be kind. So, whether you're here live or on replay, let us know where you're tuning in from right below in the comments. So, Rob, our topic today is we're taking a deep dive into mental health. So, let's do it.
Yes. That was
Yes.
my happy.
All right.
I like doing the research, so this is fun. All right, so as I mentioned on my short on YouTube, we're going to talk about things that have to do with this, but may not be the norm as far as what you usually learn about health. So these three topics are ways to help you learn, but have some fun while doing so. Our articles today actually come from the same website, psychcentral.com, which actually has a whole list of blogs and other resources as well. And the first blog that I found was medically reviewed by the Scientific Advisory Board, as you put out, writes how your past can help guide your future. George Santayana, was a Spanish American philosopher and wrote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." We've heard that quote many times before, right? People like Karl Marx have said the same thing. However, you have people like Mark Twain and others who say that it's actually not necessarily that it repeats, but it's what you're doing now. And that's kind of where this guide comes in. So they have three parts to making the past work for your future, or for all purposes, I guess, for your present as well.
Right.
You like this one. This was removing the masks. Now, I read through it a few times here. It's a little odd, a little kind of obscure wording, but I think what they're putting out here is do the things that you usually wouldn't do because you didn't think you could. Now, some of their examples are taking the time to clean, maybe doing a task that usually you have to be asked to do, but you do it on your own. I don't know if I'd call it the mask per se, but I do get the correlation. I think a better term here would be retrain you to believe in you, if you get my drift.
When I saw mask and when I think of that, I think of what we hide behind because either we're not confident of who we are, and so we just put on this face that we present out there to the world, whether we're feeling that or not. So like a happy face, like we go out there and everything is hunky dory, but behind that mask is really how we're feeling. So it's interesting because I wouldn't even have gone in that direction. So cute, interesting.
Neither would I, no. The next one I do agree with a little bit more, taking change further. So they use Rome's expansion in history as their example as to do and not to do. Now, we all know the Romans were a strange group, and we all know that they thought they were the biggest thing since sliced bread, and it worked for them for a while until it didn't, and then everybody just,
right.
And that was that. So it's not to say that you have to remember what you did. It's to remember what works and what doesn't. And that really is clues. So while history is important to learn to an extent, you don't need to know why or kind of what went wrong. You just have to remember, okay, well, we tried this once. Let's try something else. And actually, as funny as an example as it is, that's actually the perfect cultural or age of period of time, because how many, I'm a big History Channel person, and every time there's a series on Rome or that area, it's always the worst and best time of living. They were strong people. They had a great army. They knew how to build. They were the ones that gave us roads. They were the ones that gave us water filtration. However, it kind of got to their head, and they decided to go a little crazy and just try to do anything they could. So it's not so much that you can't, it's kind of knowing when to stop, when to limit, or maybe when to hold back, as to not destroy what you're working for towards the future. Remember, the article is for the future. So even past and present, both will affect what happens tomorrow. So, you got to know where you're coming from. but you
To know
just got
where
to
you're
know
going to. You
where
need
you're
to know,
going to.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Now, the
yeah.
last thing on here is something we love, we talk about all the time: learn from the here and now. In this particular thing, it's just as simple as, oops, I just did that again. Let's not do that next time. But I'm
Right.
going to take it a step further. And like on the other show we did, it's more or less focusing on what you're doing. You can remember what you did as to not do it again. You can use resources to help you either go forward or not. But really, what it comes down to is what you're doing now. And I think on my show yesterday, on my Alter Universe show, on one of the life hacks, it was asking yourself, what are you doing and why? And if you don't have an answer, maybe switching what you're doing in the now. Not to say to stop what you're doing, but
Right.
it's kind of one of those, if you can't tell yourself what you're doing, you might be doing the wrong thing.
And again, that goes to back to the mental health. I mean, we're going to pull this all back to the mental health. Is that if you figure that maybe what you're doing isn't working because it's affecting you, you need to maybe stop doing that. And see how you can maybe change what you learned from the past so that it will affect your future in a more positive way. Interesting.
So I would say I learned from this is I'm not going to let the future shape anything, but I will use the resources that make the most sense to make me a more functional person going forward. And you guys take it as you wish. I feel like sometimes maybe we should each say what we're learning from it, and that's kind of what I got from it. I thought that,
Yeah, and I don't personally, I don't know if this article actually speaks to me that way. I think it's a very interesting set of facts, but it's specifically when you talked about the mask, that seemed a little weird the way they were explaining it, but that's okay. Different strokes, different
there
strokes.
you go. Now, another thing that we both have talked about and both do semi regularly is breathing exercises. The question we're going to ask is how it actually helps. But before we do that, I think we should give the viewers a little breakdown again for in
Right,
case they missed the last show. So, mindful breathing, as they say, has many benefits for things like stress and anxiety and just general function in life.
right.
So, what can it help? Well, as we just said, anxiety and stress, along with depression, chronic pain, trauma or PTSD, and inability to focus. So,
Right.
pretty standard things. It's things to keep you present, it's things to keep you in the moment. And
Hmm.
they even say it's a very simple concept in itself. It's basically taking a minute, whether it's 5, 10, 15, or an hour, and just sitting and just kind of doing nothing to reel yourself back in. So we all can agree that that's how it works, right? But do we know how, it, where'd it go? Oh, come on. My thing just froze. There we go. Do we know how it actually works? So this is from a 2016 study. Measuring brain activity while performing a task found that participants who practiced mindful breathing had fewer mistakes. The
Hmm.
research concluded that this was because mindful breathing increased brain activity associated with tracking errors. In
Interesting.
another study from 2017, they found that both CBT and mindful based techniques can both help not only those with function disorders like autism and other, but just for people who generally have anxiety or depression. And
Hmm.
they go into more. You guys can check out more details there. They talk about borderline personality. They talk about dialect behavior issues, and a whole lot more. So, really, the answer to the question that I think, and it's really right here, is if you make your brain do the things, you're going to do them most likely better. Now, I'm not sure how they know that the brain has fewer mistakes because of it, but that's kind of a cool little point that
Yeah.
doing the breathing lessens your any issues you might have.
It focuses you. It gets you back in focus. And I think even though it's not exactly this, we talk about multitasking and we talk about people that do 10 things at one time. And I used to
Yeah,
be one of those people. And the studies tell us that you don't do anything well when you are doing 10 things at the same time. And in fact, what we were all told in the beginning, you should be a good multitasker and you're going to get a lot done, in fact is not true. because you are so all over the place. So it goes to the point. If you can just focus on one thing and sit with it, you're gonna do better, I think. And it goes to that totally.
And then, just for anybody interested, there are a few different versions. There's the 478, which you've talked about before.
Mhm.
You breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. There's also the deep breathing, which usually comes in the form of a guided or a listening. And
Right.
that's basically just repeated breathing in and out at your own pace while you listen, see, or do whatever.
Right.
And then, of course, you have breath awareness, which is similar to the guided.
You do a
And there's a
box
whole bunch
breathe.
more.
Rob, don't you do a square
This is the box breathing. So that's similar to the 478. It's I think 3 across, 3 down, 3 across, 3 down. I
breath?
forgot what the number is, but it.
Is it a disrupt? It actually disrupts whatever your anxiety was, because you have to really focus on, I have to do
I gotta
three.
say, I liked it until I didn't because it was way too hard to actually keep my focus on it, which is why I ended up switching over to the guided and awareness,
Right,
strictly because you didn't have to do anything, and it was really just more of a look at the pretty pictures, listen to the birds, or
right.
if you don't have, watching TV, stare at the wall if you choose, or look at a picture. So for me, I actually switched back to the guided because
Right.
it was less of a hassle and it was more of just, well, if you want me to breathe, this is how I
I
do it.
like
And,
somebody
I
counting
mean,
for me.
we
Right,
breathe generally with
right,
our
right,
brain,
right.
but
Yeah.
when it comes to meditation, if you want me to breathe, this is how you're going to want me to do it because it's easier just to kind of let it happen and let it,
Yes, and in a guided, they will count for you. I know when I do guided breathing exercises, it's one. They count for you, so you don't have to count, and then they drop
Oh
out.
yeah, some of them, yeah,
Right.
they'll say an affirmation, they'll go one, they'll
Yeah.
even that, it depends on how I'm feeling. I like it, but sometimes I just kind of like the sound, the sound of the ocean, the sound of the,
Right.
depends on the mood that I'm in when I'm doing
The
it.
point
But
is, pick what works for you guys. Pick what, and I'm curious, guys. Put it in the comments whether you're here today, right now, on live, or you're going to see it later on. Tell us what works for you. How do you get into that quiet mode? We want to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
there you go. All right, so finally, and you know me if you watch me regularly, I love quotes
Me
on
too.
anything. I did a great one on animals the other day. I love quotes. So we figured another good way to feel better is find that saying that you like. Now, we
Right.
picked motivational. You can also call them inspirational, or maybe it's a funny one. Maybe it is a quote on animals. There's so many quotes out there. You pick what you like. We just picked 3 of each. So we're going to go back and forth now and kind of decide. I'm going to start backwards on mine and start with my Mark Twain quote. And I picked him for a couple reasons because A, obviously one of the biggest authors we've ever had, Huckleberry Finn, all that stuff. But he is actually a really funny guy who liked to kind of jab at the system in a way that you wouldn't know he's jabbing at you because he's so fluent in his words. So the quote from him I picked, and this is a great one: the 2 most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. And it's the last part that really actually got me to pick this quote because that I think is super deep and super intense. Obviously, you always say the miracle of life, the great day of being born, but you never really think about the day you figure out what you want to do is almost as important, if not just as important, because that's when you find out, at least in my mind, who you are and what your goal is. And I've talked about this off screen. After going through so many different things and doing the things, I've now sort of come into my own of what I want to be, what my purpose of being here is to do.
Right.
And I
I
will
love
tell you guys, it's the biggest, light bulb moment of like,
when
oh
it's
my
more
God, you
like,
almost kind of like cry because you're so happy, but you're just like, wow. So I had to pick that one. I don't know if you like it at all, but
I
I,
like it a
I thought
lot.
it was great.
I like it a lot. I actually, there's another quote that it's called the dash. And so they go so far as to say that um, the day you are born and the day you die, but it's what happens in between that journey
Yeah,
from birth all the way to death. So it's sort of like this, but not really. And what I really like about this one, when it says, when you find out your why in business, we talk about what is your why? Why are you actually doing this? Why are you doing this
right.
particular work? Right. So I love this quote. I would have used it myself, but you had already taken it. So
Oh well.
there
What are
you
you
go.
gonna do?
Absolutely. And so I'm going to do one by Ben Stein. And he says the indispensable first step to getting the things you want out of life is this: decide what you want. I love this because so many people, they have literally no clue as to what they want, but they don't understand why they're not getting it, whatever it is. So I love this. What do you think?
Well, it's funny because when I saw who it was, I go back to the Ferris Bueller movie and I just think of him in that. But he actually is an economist by trade, so and I think he's worked on CNN and stuff as well. So he knows what he's talking about. I mean, when it comes to whether it's business or life, yeah, you can't really do anything until you actually know what you're doing. So it's kind of like, why start if you don't know where you're going?
Right.
So
And it kind of connects with the Mark Twain, discovery why, and also what, right? What
yeah,
is it?
exactly.
What is it that you actually want? Okay, what's your next one?
All right, so again, this guy, I did not realize how funny this man was, but I did a whole video on him as well. Albert Einstein, obviously the birth person of everything. But I love it because I was watching a show and he made a joke where he came to America once and they asked him, are you happy to be here? He goes, as long as you have the wine, I'm good. And it was like, one of those things where you don't expect this brilliant scientist to be
Right.
funny. But this particular one, I think I've heard multiple times before. But he said, life is like riding a bike. To keep your balance, you got to keep moving.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward and standard. There's no rhyme or reason, doesn't get very deep. It's just simply
Keep going.
if you got to keep straight what you're doing, you got to keep going with it. And again, personal experience as well. Until you are kind of at a stop and you are kind of at a standstill and you're kind of just like, yeah. Once you figure it out,
Yep.
you can't help but continue the biking because you're, no pun intended, but you're on the roll
Right.
and you literally are going. So and again, coming from a guy like that,
Yeah.
he's very in depth, but to say something so simple, you're like, really? That's an Einstein quote? Like, whew. So that just gave me the feels. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that's
I
good.
really like it. And I actually I agree. Just keeping on.
There you
Um,
go.
this next one is I'm fangirling over her right now. Mel Robbins. For those of you who have follow her, this woman is pretty amazing, and she also suffers from mental health issues, anxiety in particular. But she says there will always be someone who can't see your worth. Don't let it be you. That is like a right? We wake up in the morning and you need to feel worthy. You need to realize that you have worth. You are worthwhile. Don't let, there are going to be people out there that are going to, slam you or not say nice things or whatever, but don't let it be you. Don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm terrible. I'm crappy. I can't do this. I love this. What do you think about this, Rob?
It's like you read my life. Well, obviously you would know me, but no. This is anybody with anxiety thought. I mean, and I will tell you, and I say it before. You do put yourself down because it's easy to do,
Hmm.
and you shouldn't. But when you do it, or when you do it so often, it just kind of becomes a habit. So
Right.
yeah, the last person that should be saying anything bad is you.
Right.
It's similar to like why you shouldn't say bad things about somebody else. They don't like it. So why are you supposed to like it if you say it to yourself? So yeah, I mean, it is tough because you can't just stop doing it. It's
Right.
whether you got to kind of like rehab it. But
Right.
yeah, the last person on earth that needs to give you a bad time is your brain, because your
Exactly.
brain's
Because if you put that out there, and this is all about manifestation and all about other
yeah.
things, if you put out there that you don't think you're worthy, or I'm not going to raise my hand and answer a question because I just don't know what I'm talking about. Well, you probably do, and know your worth. Know that what you have to say is important. So this one really speaks to me. I used it the other day. Put it out there as a quote because again, I do what you do. I love quotes. I love up in the morning and finding something that speaks to me, that sort of starts the day off. I might find two or three more later on that continues the day. But this one I actually posted the other day, and it was how I started my day. And I had people commenting because it is a challenge for people. It's a
But I'll even
challenge.
go on and say, even if you don't know the answer, still maybe raise your hand because at the least you're going to
Exactly.
learn something.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And your
All
last
right, so my last one here, you know him all, we love him all. as I act as if I know him. He's actually one of those guys that if I could meet him, I would meet him. So of course the Dalai Lama, always on the top of my list for my reading and everything, said just one small positive thought in the morning can change your whole day. Must be a Buddhist monk thing, right? No, and I say that jokingly but seriously because we talked about the other guy as well. But in the Buddhist tradition, the most important thing you're learning is it's what you do is going to affect what happens.
Right.
Nothing else really does. Yeah, natural disaster, whatever, that can all change what goes down, but it's you that changes what's going to go. So if you want it to be good, it's up to you. It's not up to somebody else. It's not up to the TV. It's not up to whatever. It's up to you
Right.
to do it. And the best time to do it is right from the start. So the first thing in your mind should be something positive, and that'll affect your whole day.
We talk about gratitude journals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When you and we'll share some journals in a few seconds. But when I've said this. When I wake up in the morning, I write down at least three things that I'm grateful for. It might be the same three things every day because I really feel that way. And when you do that, guys, literally the rest of your day is changed because you're showing gratitude. I love these. These quotes are amazing. I picked this last one because it actually fits the entire thing that we're talking about. And this is from St. Francis de Sales. And he said, half an hour's meditation each day is essential, except when you are busy. Then a full hour is needed. I laughed when I first read it, but it's true because for me, it's true. Go back to what works for you, right? What works for you. So I don't know about you. I don't know if I could do a full hour, but when I'm busy and I'm going crazy, I will sometimes sit down and just veg out with my earphones on, and listen to a guided meditation. How about you? When you're stressed or when you're busy, do you tend to want to go sit for an hour, or do you
Well, I
no?
looked him up because I actually didn't know who that was, but he was a Catholic bishop. So obviously, faith and religion were a big part of his daily thing. So it seems like that maybe came from more of a spiritual
Mhm.
comment than anything else. Because I want to get the context to see.
Right,
So
right.
that actually kind of makes a little more sense to me that he said, when you do get too busy, you need a little bit more. And yeah, he's right. You
That's
don't want to do more when you're already crazy. You kind of want to like
And that's
chill.
you telling yourself. That's literally helping yourself. And I
Yeah,
think it's a
exactly.
reminder. I think really what this is, I don't think it's specifically, are you going to sit for an hour? I think really the reminder here is that if you find yourself busy and you need some help, stop. Just stop and meditate or breathe or do whatever you're
Or
going
just
to
sit there and just like stare at the.
or just sit there. I love these. These are awesome. I'm curious, guys, if you have some favorite quotes you want to share with us? Put it in the comments. Love to hear what you guys like to listen to. We have some cool swag that we'd like to share with you. So you can go to altereduniverse.live shop. And when you go there, you're going to see a lot of different swag, but we are really, really excited about our journals. We have a couple coming to our homes. We have sent for them. But these are journals, and or you can draw pictures in them, or you can write your favorite quotes in them, or what you're grateful for. But we have three different versions. Find your passion, because we're all about passion here, and love yourself, which comes from one of our shows that we did, how to love yourself, and the importance of now, which of course also comes from my show. So go over to altereduniverselive.shop. And in the meantime, we also want to share with you not that one. We want to share with you this one. Get rid of that. And that is our free ebook. Go on over to mindingyourmentalhealth.com, put your name and email in there. We promise not to spam you at all. This is a free book, and it will help you find your passion. Any last minute thoughts, Rob, before we give some call to actions on how to get some support and help?
Um, all these pictures on the screen.
I
That happens. What are you gonna do?
no.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these articles were great. If you guys weren't able to read them all now, catch them there. PsychCentral.com has a lot of good information there as well. But we'll do some more deep dives. If you watch our other shows, we always have portions of it where we do the research. So just do your thing. do some research. Make sure it's healthy research, not the weird stuff. But do your thing. If you want to learn something more, go online and figure it out. Talk
Yeah,
to people who are in the business. Talk to people who medical providers, whatever. Talk to anybody who might have the answers. That's the easiest way to figure it out, and then see
right.
how it can be implemented into your
What
life
works for you?
journey.
Yeah, what works for you. If you are right now watching, or you know somebody who is triggered and needs some support, first of all, there are lots of online resources. Go on over to nimh.nih.gov. You're going to find all sorts of things there. NAMI, go on to NAMI.org. And finally, if you are right now needing assistance right this minute, check out 988. It was released about 6 months ago. When you call there, they will route you to wherever you live, to the right person to talk to you. We're here to support you. We're not medical doctors. We are people who experience what you experience all out there. And so we're here to just have these conversations. Rob, always a pleasure having these conversations with you. And as I like to say, you have a choice as to where you spend your time. You chose to spend it with Rob and I today. We thank you because we know how important that is. Go out and give somebody an awesome day. See you next time. Bye bye, everyone.